Three. Well, another episode of Afterthought coming your way. Season 2 episode. Yeah. Season 2 episode.
Season 10. I'm just
Season 10,
looking
bro.
into the future.
You jumped it. That's prophetic. He just said we're going to be here in 10 seasons.
Yeah, I had my That's So Raven moment.
Let's go.
I saw it.
That's so
I
Raven.
saw it.
Dude. So, Season 2 episode 10. You know what's amazing, Austin, I've noticed is our in-person audience attendance goes up.
Mm-hmm.
I think we do a pretty great show. Next week, audience viewership in person goes down. Remember last week, Marie was here going, I'm going to be there every single week to make sure you guys don't move off of the microphone. Hey.
Where'd she go?
Don't know. But we got
Maybe she'll watch it online for the first
Faith
time.
and Matthew in the house. Burr, 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 burr. All right, so we were
That was
talking.
good. We didn't even plan that.
We didn't even plan that. That's
That was
how
good.
we're related. We were talking that we were going to do a little something different today.
Yeah,
we
other
did
than
the
the random questions.
Everyone knows everything about us by now. So we want to do some word association. So explain the rules of the game, my son.
I can explain it. I don't know if it'll make sense, but then we'll do it and it will.
Yeah.
So essentially, we'll say a word on the count of three.
Okay.
One.
Just the first word that comes to your mind.
The first word that comes to our head. So like 1, 2, 3,
Apple.
lights. Okay, so you said apple. I said lights. So then we try to find a word that joins those together.
Okay.
And we try to guess the same word, essentially. Okay. So, and then we try to do it on the least amount of tries that we can.
Okay.
Marissa and I sometimes we're really good, sometimes we're really bad.
Okay,
at this,
Faith, you and Matthew also can guess on these.
Sure.
Right? You can guess. They should say a word, too, to say they're close to us. On the second try.
Okay.
Okay, so you say it.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
You ready? 1, 2, 3, projector.
Arm.
Projector arm.
Oh, shucks. Okay.
I don't know. I feel like sometimes I'm not the smartest human being when I'm playing this because it takes me 5 minutes just to think of a word.
Projector arm. I don't even know about that one.
Yeah.
Faith, any ideas what that could?
I have one, but I don't know the word.
Oh, okay. Let's try it again.
Different word?
Different word.
Okay. Well, what I was thinking was, like the old cameras where you're gonna like crank it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
maybe
that's
crank.
what I was thinking. What was it?
Maybe crank.
Crank.
Projector arm.
Getting cronk. Hey.
Okay. Do it again. 1, 2, 3. Coffee.
Coffee chair. Okay.
All right.
I don't. Yeah. Okay.
1, 2, 3.
Table.
Bible.
Okay. Table. Bible. Got it.
1, 2, 3.
Podium. Oh.
Dude, I wasn't in sync. I was gonna say study.
Study podium.
1, 2, 3. Preach.
Pulpit.
Okay. 1, 2, 3.
Pastor.
Sermon.
Okay.
1, 2, 3. Notes. Oh,
I was gonna say Moses, and I was like, I know that's not where
stay
you're
with
going.
Moses.
Notes and Moses. Okay, here we go. 1, 2, 3.
Ten Commandments.
Woo!
Yeah,
we
baby.
did it.
We did it.
We did it,
I
everybody.
like that game, Faith. That's incredible right there. Ooh-wee.
Man, that was good.
Okay, you want to try one more for our viewers?
Sure.
How do you think, Marie?
I saw a thumbs up.
Hey, good job. She loved it. All right. 1, 2, 3. Glasses. Ooh, what'd you say?
Taylor Swift.
And glasses. Oh. All right, let's shift gears.
Yeah.
That was a fun game though. Random.
Maybe we'll have the same game next week.
Random
Maybe it'll be
questions.
different.
Word association. Love it. And Faith can't edit that out.
Yeah.
Well, she probably edit out the whole Taylor Swift ugly.
She'll edit out everything.
She will. She'll like, you guys, that
we
word
can't edit it out. And
that word
like,
association thing was horrible. I bet everyone at home right now is laughing though.
I hope so. If not,
they should play along with us and just shout a word out. And if they have their headphones in or noise canceling headphones, you should just shout a word. If you're on an airplane, shout a word.
If you're watching this on an
If
airplane,
you're watching an airplane right now,
awesome.
That's
some
commitment.
commitment. Yeah.
That's like Marie. Oh, never mind. She's not here.
Yeah, it's okay.
I'm going to be there every week, guys.
It's because you did such a great job of not moving last week. She knows.
I know. Did you see how I just did that right there, Faith? I went like this. That's pretty awesome, right?
That's good.
Okay, shifting gears. Come Okay, what you got for me today, buddy?
Okay. First up, we talked about giving and tithes this week.
By the way, a lot of people responded that they really enjoyed it.
Yeah. It's one of those things where we talk about, and it sounds like it's going to be uncomfortable until you hear it, and you're like, oh, that was actually,
you're like,
that's not that
I needed
bad.
this.
Yeah, it's like the build-up is way worse than what is actually communicated. So
it's always, how your parents get mad at you, and they're going to just, I'm going to get so in trouble, and then you're like, hey, we love you, don't do it again.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. Okay, I'll do it one more time.
That never happened to Austin. Okay.
So when we talked about discipline,
Yeah.
Discipline with finances, discipline with tithing, why is it so important spiritually?
I think the reason why it's so important, let's go back to the Matthew 6 thing. Remember he says, store up for your treasures in heaven, don't store them up on earth. If they're on earth, moth destroy, rust, decay, but store up in heaven where it's eternal. We talked about this in week 1, where what we strive for so much in our life is we strive for the things of earth instead of the things of heaven. Jesus says you need to be disciplined for the things of heaven. The problem is not that I think we desire to give to God. I think we desire to tithe to God. I think we desire to put him first, but I think we aren't disciplined to do it.
That's good.
So I think for a lot of us, we have the desire to make it happen, but not the discipline to make it happen. So if you're going to store up treasures in heaven, not on earth, there's got to be a discipline that takes place to do that. If you're on a diet, you got to discipline yourself to eat a certain way, right? So if you're dieting, if you're eating healthy, then don't go down the cereal aisle. Don't go down the donut aisle, right? You got to stay out of the ice cream section of the freezer. Just don't even tempt yourself. So what I'm thinking in regards to a disciplined way of giving is if your personality is be drawn to the way of the world, you've got to discipline yourself and try not to fall into a pattern of things that will draw you into the world when you should be giving to eternal, heavenly aspects of God. So I think it's not that we lack the desire to give. I think we lack the discipline to give. I don't think we lack the desire to put him first. I think everyone watching wants to put Jesus first. I think it's the discipline to put him first that gets us in trouble.
For sure. And it's the same thing like what you're saying. You know yourself better than anyone else knows you. So you know what you need to be disciplined in, how you need to be disciplined. I know myself.
Yes.
During COVID, it was the worst because I knew I was not going to get any work done at home.
Yeah.
Like I just know myself. Yeah. If the TV's on or like if there's so many other things available to me, I'm going to do everything in my power not to work.
Exactly.
And that's just how it happens. So same thing with you being disciplined in finances. There's probably going to be a lot of things that you want to spend your money on that you probably won't be able to because you need to be disciplined. There's going to be discipline that needs to be happening. So you're going to have to prioritize some certain things, prioritize tithing, and be disciplined in budgeting and different things like that so you can continue tithing. And that doesn't mean you won't be able to do these things in the future or even then. You never know how God's going to work.
That's right.
He might open a door for you to do the things that you want to do. But at the same time, we need to be disciplined.
Yeah, it's crazy. I was talking to somebody called me the other day, and they're working on their finances, right? They're putting God first. They have put God first for a long time, but they're in a new season of life, and they called to just go, hey, we're looking at our finances, working with a financial planner. And it makes sense for us financially on paper if we just go for a season without tithing. Now they've been tithing, but it goes like for us for a season to not tithe. It really kind of on paper, it looks good to us.
Yeah.
And what do you think? What do you think? And I'm like, well, you know the answer I'm going to give you. Like I know on paper it looks good. I know on paper it makes it seem like if we just stop tithing, then everything. But isn't that just the mindset of the devil? It's like, that stuff's more important. But what puts you where you are, what puts you where you are is putting God first. Yeah. So the reason why you have that job, you have that family, and so I love that they were wrestling with that. Like, no, we're gonna put God first, and that's why I said, it's the discipline. It's the discipline because when you look on paper, you're just like, man, I could save $10, $20, $200, $1,000, whatever your income is. I can save that every week, bi-weekly, monthly, or I can put God first. The desire is you want to put him first, but the discipline is, are you going to?
Yeah.
And I think that's what kind of gets us in trouble. And that's why the focus has got to be, man, I'm putting God first in every area of my life. So that first 10% of the tithe, it is his. And I'm disciplined to give it to him, even when my desire says yes, but my lack of discipline says I'd much rather put it towards a vacation or whatever. And so I think you got to look at the scripture too, because the scripture is it's bold to say either you give it to God or you steal it from God. There's no in between. That's bold. That's a bold statement. Either you give God what's His or you steal from God what's His. And I'm like, man, I don't want to steal.
Yeah,
but
I don't want to steal from God.
I don't want to steal from God. So that's the perspective you have to have. Is my discipline is I desire to give to Him, and number 2, I want to be disciplined to not steal from Him.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, speaking of discipline, part of discipline is giving the first of your 10% to God. So why is it so important to give the first of your 10% to God?
Well, I think the biblical aspect, like we talked about it this weekend. Let's look at this perspective. Let's say that you and I are having dinner at the house, right? And we're inviting over Ethan and Faith, our good friends, Ethan and Faith. Sophisticated Sally over here. And we're inviting it, right? And let's say, so we're going to invite them to the house. You and I we're going to probably go to the store. We're going to buy new food. We're going to buy steak. They're our friends. We're not going to come over and give them second rate. We're going to give them the best, right?
Right.
So we go shopping. We're able to, we get some good food, whatever. Because what wouldn't happen would be us invite them over and they sit down and they're like, hey, thanks for inviting us over for dinner. What's for dinner? Well, last night, Austin and I had some penne pasta. It's in the fridge. We've got a little bit of salad left in a bag. I might just figure out that there's a few slices of bread left. We would never give our friends leftovers. Right. So why would you give God leftovers?
That's good. Yeah.
And I think that's the idea of putting Him first in our lives, is that He's saying to me, He's saying to us, saying to all of us, saying to me, you, all of us, put me first. It's a faith thing. I talked about last week. It's not a financial transaction. It's a faith transition. I think the reason why God says, give me the first, is that it shows Him that we're willing to take the first 10% before we do anything else with it, give it to God, and go, God, now bless the 90. I trust you enough to know that you're going to bless the rest. Yeah. And I think it's not like, let's say you own a landscaping company, and you make $1,000, right? You make $1,000 that week. What's your tithe?
100 of it.
100 bucks. But let's say you've got 10 buckets, right? You've got mortgage, car payment, you've got insurance, you've got groceries, you've got your entertainment, whatever, your movies, like out to dinner, like you've got all that, right? And so let's say that you go $100, you got 1,000, mortgage, car, you go through everything, and you're like, oh, all I got left is 80. That goes to God.
Yeah.
And God goes, well, that's not a tithe.
Right.
The tithe was the 100, and you gave my tithe to the mortgage company. So I can't bless the rest of it, right? So you got to ask yourself, what's the first 10% is the first one to leave your hand. And so the very first thing you do before the rest of the buckets, my tithe, mortgage, car. But that doesn't make sense, Sean. And God's like, and in God's economy, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah. It's
the faith economy. It's the economy of building faith, not finances. And so I'm just saying, God, I trust you. It's a trust thing, which I think the Bible talks so much about money because the Lord knows what our hearts can get attached to.
Right.
And so I think He wants the first, just so that He knows our hearts are connected with Him from a trust and a faith and obedience factor. It's a sacrifice, surrender, obedience, trust, faith. And so if I give Him the first 10%, then I can believe the rest to be blessed. But God goes, you don't trust me if you don't give me the first. Yeah. You know what I mean? I mean, if you look at it in the Bible, that's the thing. It's like when you had a lamb, right? You go back to the Old Testament, Exodus. We talked about it this weekend. Exodus. You give God, I want the first lamb. It's not like you have 10 lambs and give me the one that keeps getting the garden eating all the vegetables.
The first and the best. Yeah.
The first and it's like you don't have any lambs. You give me the first before you have it. It's not like you're like, okay, now I have 10. I can give him one. It is like, no, you give me the first one. You sacrifice it to me, and then trust me for the rest of those to be born and be lucrative to your business, whatever the case may be. And I think that's the case. That's the faith. It's like, but what if, how many more?
Yeah.
Oh, really? Do you not trust me for more? You know what I mean? And so I think God's like, that's why I want the first. Look at Jericho. Jericho was, remember when the Israelites went to the promised land? Jericho was the first city. And God said, I want the first. There's tons of cities you're going to go to battle with. Jericho's the first city. That's my city. Yep. So don't take any money from there. Don't take any jewels from there. Don't take any gold from there. There's a guy named Achan, and Achan stole. So God says, don't take one. I'm going to give you that city, but I don't want you to take anything. That's why it's the first one.
Yep.
So they go into the battle, the next battle, which is a smaller city, and they lost way more people.
Mm-hmm.
And Joshua's like, what happened, God? You stole from me. That's what he said, the language. You stole from me. But I didn't steal from you. No, somebody did, though, and I told you not to. So I think God's very direct, very bold, very outspoken in the fact that he wants the best. And he wants the first, And, there's certain things about God. I mean, God can't lose.
Yeah.
Because he always wins, right? God can't change, because to change, you have to be better than you already are. So God can't change, right? God can't think like we think.
Right.
Because we think for ourselves. God, for us to think, we got to go, oh, man, you know what? I just had a thought, God's never like, I just had a thought. He just knows.
Yeah.
And God can't be second, because he is first.
Yeah.
Now, doesn't matter whether you put him first or not, he is first, because he can't be second. And I think he deserves that. He demands that. He wants that. And I think it shows us and shows him where we put him in the priority of our life when we give him the first.
For sure. I think the part that I want to focus on in the Achan story is that it didn't just affect him, it affected his family. It affected the people around him.
Whole family was killed.
His whole family was killed.
Yeah.
They lost more people out of the Israelites who were fighting.
Yeah.
He lost more people because he stole from God.
That's right.
So I don't know about you, but when I look at that story, I don't want to be the Achan who steals from God and affects everyone around me.
Dude, completely.
Yeah.
100%. Like, I've had those moments in my life where if something's happening, right? Let's say the church isn't growing. Let's say that you're at a business, whatever, and I'm going, God, am I the one?
Yeah.
Am I the one that's keeping? Because if I'm the one that's keeping this from growing or developing, or like, God, let me know. You know what I mean? So those are the things that we got to be protective of.
Yep, agreed. And I was wondering, how weird it is that God only asked for 10%.
Yeah,
because it's all his.
Yeah,
he could very well ask for the 90,
all of it,
or even the 100. I mean, look in biblical times, he wasn't even asking for it. Well, he was asking for everyone just to drop everything and go, and they were doing it.
Yeah.
Is there a significance behind the 10% of what God asked for?
I don't know if it's it just started raining. How cool is that? You hear the rain in the microphones.
Yeah.
It's like we're talking about it's God. It's like that's right. He brings on the rain. It's all God's.
Well, speaking of rain, going back to the last point before you answer that one, you said it's faith.
Yeah.
Finances. Yeah. It takes faith. I mean, it might not make sense, but God doesn't make sense. There's so many things that we won't understand about God until we get to heaven and come face to face with him, so he can actually answer those questions for us.
Well, and you know what I think you do the same thing that Mom and I did. We've done this for years. So we have it set up, like we do it through PushPay, through our church app. We have it set up where our tithe is so as soon as we get paid, the very first thing that comes out is our tithe.
Yeah.
We have it set up where I don't even see it.
Yep, me too.
It just comes. You can do that on the app. It's recurring. It comes out. We get paid. Boom, it comes out.
Yeah.
The crazy thing is, I've never once thought about it. I've never looked at it. I don't want to look at it because, if I'm honest, it's not mine to look at.
Yeah.
So I don't look at it and go, "Oh my gosh, this much came out of our account today." I don't even think that.
Yeah.
And people go, "But don't you miss it?" No, because it's not mine. It's not. But you'd have so much. No, it's not mine.
Yeah.
And so I think if we get in the mindset that when you get paid, your mindset is just like you have your bills. In your bills, I've got a car payment, I've got my insurance, I've got this. We know that. You factor in the tithe is already, like, it's not mine.
Yeah.
Like, you just go ahead and then you know what you have to live on. But the problem is we pay everything else and then we go, I didn't tithe yet.
Yeah.
And your tithe should be, let's say you got a $1,000 job, $100. Well, all I have is 70 left. Well, not if you would have put that first.
Yeah.
Then you would have had maybe less for X, but God gets his and he can bless the rest. So going back to 10%, I don't know why 10. I mean, I remember thinking when I was 15 years old, I knew God called me to be a pastor. My youth pastor, Richard, was like, he's the best, dude. He's the bomb. And I remember him saying to me, "You want to be a pastor?" And I said, "Yeah." He said, "Do you tithe?" And I'm like, "Well, my parents tithe." He's, "I didn't ask you if your parents tithe. Do you tithe? Because you're growing in leadership, you're growing in your faith, but do you tithe?" At that point in time, I was working at a grocery store called Joe Amalia's. I was a stock boy, bag boy. And I said, "My parents tithe. There's envelopes all over the house." He said, "But do you tithe?" "No." He goes, "Well, you need to tithe 10%. And I remember starting when I was 15 years old. Now I'll be 51 in a couple months. I remember, so I started when I was 15. I've tithed, right? Now, Mom and I have even increased ours now over 10, but that doesn't make that
Right.
There's no point to that story, but I'm saying, but I've never once thought, since 15 years old, man, I miss that money.
Yeah.
Never once thought it because of the discipline of setting when I was 15 now. It just makes sense because it's what I do.
Yeah.
It's what we do. It's what we do. And so we try to instill that even in you and Alyssa. It's like, man, we're always putting God first in everything that we do, especially in the area of our finances, to teach you how to do it. Yeah. We got the 5 minute over here. We got the 5 minute.
5 minute. Okay.
Sophisticated Susie, love you. So, but you know what I mean? Like, It's like those are the kind of things. I think the reason why people have a difficult time with it now is because they never put in the discipline to make it happen.
For sure.
So it's so hard now, but start now. Just start now, and then it won't be hard 3 months from now. Mike Griffin, I remember he started the church with he and Allison started the church with Mom and I. He and I were just talking last week about tithing. Like, when I first started, I was like, holy cow, he's like, now I don't even miss it.
No, not at all.
He goes, now it's like it is God's, and I'm blessed more because of it. His marriage is blessed because of it. His son's blessed. It's just like and those are the things I think we're missing out of the blessing because of our selfishness. You know,
for sure. It's one of those things where like. The issue isn't how much we're giving up, like we're going to miss it. The issue is actually figuring out how much can I give? How much should I give?
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
It's like I want to give more, but how, like, is it too much? Or, I don't think there is a point where it's ever too much, but it's still the heart behind it. It's like, man, I'm going to miss that. No, not at all. It's like, how much more can I give?
Exactly. Exactly. And I think if you've got a count, like, okay, let's say you get your paycheck is $1,062.47. Like, if you're looking at it into the dollar, given 10%, like that's like 160. That's where I think it gets like kind of legalistic. And I'm like, for me, I'm like, dude, no, round it up, whatever the case may be. It's like God's getting extra 6 cents or those guys. I think you can get kind of legalistic in it.
Sure.
Like, well, he just wants 10%. So I'm going to give him directly 10%. I'm like, well, then
that comes down to you not doing it out of your heart. It's you doing it because it's the right thing to do.
It's really religiosity. You're doing it out of regulation, out of manipulation, not out of, because the Bible says, remember, Paul says God loves a cheerful giver.
Right.
And that word cheerful in the original language means hilarious. It means like you're laughing, not like you're laughing hysterically while you give it. Yeah. It's like you give it and go, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Yeah. And I think too many times we're just like, oh gosh, instead of like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I get to be a part of this.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the other thing too, why it's hard to give is because people don't see the blessing.
Yeah.
But because they're looking for it financially and it's not always going to come financially. Yep. Or they're still looking at it financially, expecting it's going to be something gigantic, like a huge, I'm getting $1 million, I won the lottery type thing. And it's like, no, that's not how. Like, yes, God could move that way. Is it most likely going to happen like that? No. God's most likely going to move in the perfect time and give you the perfect amount of whatever you're looking 100%. For. It's not going to be like, bam, the next week you're going to get it. It could be.
Yes.
But God's going to move in his timing, which is always perfect.
Yep. And I think that and God will work on areas in our lives where he needs to work on areas of our life. Yeah. And typically I think money's the place that God works on us the most, to develop us the most. I think a lot of people, they don't have a problem serving. I don't think they have a hard time giving up their time. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of people have a hard time giving up their money. Yeah. And God goes, man, then you're storing up your treasures here. Mm-hmm. And I need to have your heart and your focus there. Yeah. And because where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. And so if you're invested in the kingdom, your heart's gonna be in the kingdom. If you're invested in the world, your heart's gonna be invested in the world. For sure. And so I think that's where we got to have that focus. Yeah.
I feel like not everyone, but the number one excuse why not to give is the economy's so bad, I need it. Yeah. And in my opinion, if the economy is this bad, why wouldn't you want God's blessings on your life?
100%.
Like if this economy is this bad, I would want to give more so that God might bless me more, It's the economy sucks. Dude. Just saying it straight up. It's terrible. Yep. Everyone feels it. The church feels it. Yep. Everyone personally feels it, So, but at the same time, that shouldn't hinder it from us giving. No.
And this is like, I think from this from me personally, this is a difficult season because economy's rough, and everybody's impacted. So because everyone's impacted, man, the church, it's been a difficult giving season. Yeah. And I love the fact that I was telling Mom about this. We didn't do this series because giving was difficult. This series was planned back in October. Right. But I just felt like God spoke to me back then and said, man, the difficulty in trusting me has got to be talked about. And so it's interesting that we're in this season now where economy is probably worse than it's been. I don't want to say in my lifetime,
but pretty dang close.
But pretty dang close. And what a time for us to press in more to the things of God. And if you're out there, we'll close with this. I know our timekeeper's telling us there. But if you're saying, I can't afford to give, I would rebuttal and say, you can't afford not to.
Yeah.
Because I think what I want, especially in a critical season like this, of desperate times call for desperate measures, and I would say desperate times call for desperate faith.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you're in a season right now going, man, I just don't know, God, what to do, I'm like, I'm going to put him first.
Yeah.
I'm going to trust him first and see what happens, and you'll probably be surprised by the results.
For sure. Yeah.
How was that, Faith? Man.
Episode 10 right there.
Episode 10. Man, I do love this series, though.
Yeah, it's been good.
It's
been
really,
good.
Really excited about it.
Like you said, it's not just financial. It goes into every bit of our life.
Every aspect of your life. Well, we love you all. Have a great week. We'll see you this weekend. We cannot wait. Bye. Well, hey, everybody. We hope you loved this episode of Afterthought. If you did like it, make sure you can comment. Let us know your thoughts. Share it with a friend. Hey, we're dropping new material every single Wednesday.
Yeah. We know you like the video, so leave a like and subscribe because, like you said, we're going to have a video coming every Wednesday. Turn on those notifications so you know when it comes out. You can check it out.
See you next week.